Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This video, we're going to be looking at something hush hush, bootlegs. Thank you once again for joining me on my YouTube channel. Just want to say big hello, big thumbs up to all the new subscribers and anyone else who's watching. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? All you need to do is just click this button down the bottom here and ring the bell and all that nonsense. And it helps the channel sort of move up in the algorithm that YouTube set. Don't ask me how it works, but it does. Also, if you'd like to sort of help keep the channel alive a little bit more, all you need to do is just click this link up here, and that's buy me a coffee. And all that does is that just throws a couple of dollars down the internet at me, helps keep the lights on, and helps me buy new material to cover within my channel. Anyway, enough of all that nonsense. Let's move on to today's subject. That sort of iffy subject of bootlegs. Now, many of you, I'm assuming, will know what a bootleg is, but a few of you may not. Now, bootleg can range anything from, say, unreleased recordings, concert recordings, even down to like pirated, counterfeited records. For example, this one that I held up at the start. This is called Cold Cuts. I mean, I'm not saying this is the cover that McCartney was going to choose, but there was going to be an album called Cold Cuts and Hot Hits, got scrapped, but a lot of the tracks that were going to be included in that album have since been bootlegged on such albums, such as this Cold Cuts album here. And yeah, that's a counterfeit record. And, it could be sort of an unreleased album that the artist didn't want to bring out, as I said, for Cold Cuts. And then, it sort of leaked out through various nefarious methods. Some of you may have seen that I actually put a little poll out on a few Facebook Beatles groups, just asking, are bootlegs, albums, CDs still relevant in these days of streaming? Do people still want a physical bootleg as opposed to just sort of getting it off of YouTube? And you can listen to practically any bootleg now on YouTube. I mean, I'm going back in the day when I first started buying bootlegs, and that was in the 80s. Were the first ones that I started buying. In fact, I've got a couple of the first ones I've got here. So this one here is called A Wonderful Picture of You, and it's got, sort of rock and roll stuff that the Beatles recorded at the BBC. Now, you've got to remember, this is before the official Beatles at the Beeb records, or Beatles at the BBC records. And I'll come on to Beatles at the Beeb, which is another bootleg collection, very, very soon. You used to get wonderful bootlegs like this. So it was called File Under Beatles. It was sort of done in like a sort of a file sort of format, and there was a card on the back with the track listing. It came with all sorts of nonsense and goodies, sort of like pictures, a film strip, as you can see there. Now, this one sort of had a lot of the material that we'd never heard of before. Things like the Beatles version of Come and Get It. It had some Get Back sessions on there. How Do You Do It, and things like that. All things which we had not heard or seen officially yet. So the results of the poll that I put out were 86% of the people who answered, who responded to the poll, said yes, they are still relevant. Physical copies are still relevant, be it albums or CDs. I think what it is, just people, they want to feel like they've got something tangible. And it's a bit like just ordinary vinyl and CDs these days. That people are fed up buying things on Spotify, but they don't actually own them. How I describe owning records to youngsters is, Spotify, where you pay monthly and you can listen to anything that you like. Well, I can listen to anything in my record collection, and the difference is I actually own them and I can play them anytime I like as well. But there's something physical and tangible there, something which I can hold, read, look at, as well as watching the record go round and round. By far, the biggest subject of Beatles bootlegs has to be the Let It Be Get Back sessions. Now we've all seen the Peter Jackson's three-part video, and 9 hours long, and that's incredible to actually see what we was hearing on the bootlegs that we bought way back when. Here's an example of a really nice bootleg set. It's called the Beatles Get Back Journals, and it's like, phenomenal. These are albums they're done like in a film sort of canister, and you think Peter Jackson, his trilogy of videos is worth watching and listening to. Wow, you should hear some of these. Some of these have never been officially released. They didn't even come out in Peter Jackson's videos. So, they are available on streaming, YouTube or whatever. So, you can hear them for free, but you don't get things like this wonderful packaging here. This is like a 11 album set of Get Back outtakes. A little earlier, I did touch on the subject of the Beatles at the BBC. Now, obviously, we have got the official sort of, there's a triple album, double albums, or whatever they are, the official released Apple versions. But there are many, many, many more sessions and radio shows that weren't even included. Originally, these came out in a, what are we up to, 11 volume set here of LPs. These are Beatles at the Beeb, and they all have different radio shows on them. And there's 11 records there. That was then superseded by a fantastic box set of CDs, which is this one here. It's 9 in the box plus a bonus one. And obviously, a CD holds much more material than a vinyl record. So you can imagine how much stuff. Here's the track listings. You're never going to read that, but you can imagine how much stuff that's in here in this box that will never ever see the light of day officially. In these days of official releases, such as this 50th anniversary of the White Album, and they include the Isha demos, which obviously the Beatles recorded at George's house in Isha. And they're the same records that were appeared on the album and a few extras, but in demo form. Now we did have things like this back in the day. So before that box set came out, we had things like this called Off-White, and I would like to bet that there's some things on here that aren't on that officially released box set. Different alternate demos and things like that that weren't on that box set or even in the Beatles anthology. Another fabulous set that you can get, I'm pretty sure you probably get most of it on streaming, but these are things which have never been officially released. The Lost Lennon tapes. I know there was a radio show called Lost Lennon Tapes, but these are records here of demos and outtakes from John Lennon's solo catalogue. Lots of double fantasy outtakes, which are fantastic. I think, thinking about it, don't we need like a double fantasy box set with some demos? And I know we got the stripped back version, which, by the way, is my personal favourite out of the released versions of double fantasy. But wouldn't it be great to get some demos in a deluxe, anthology or deluxe version of double fantasy, including maybe the stripped back version? But as you can see here, there's quite a few Lost Lennon tapes albums which contain many, many, many outtakes from those sessions. It's also interesting to see how officially released records mimic bootlegs, which have been out for many, many, many years. So we had the Revolver picture disc, which I used to love. Oh no, I still do love the Revolver picture disc, and it is just the Revolver album in picture disc form. This came out probably, I don't know, early 2000s, probably late 90s. And then what do we get for the 50th anniversary? We get a Revolver picture disc. So there we are, one counterfeit or pirate record, and that's the official released version. Just thinking about the legality of owning bootlegs. You're allowed to own a bootleg. It's not illegal to own one. What it is illegal to do is to sell it. And that's why back in the 80s and 90s, you could not buy bootlegs at record fairs or Beatles conventions. They were always under the counter jobs at the Beatles convention. There was always someone would know someone, and you had to visit someone in a hotel room. Little secret knock on the door, they let you in, and they would have bootleg records and CDs. As you can see, I do have quite a few bootlegs. Some behind me, some I've already shown you down there, and there's still some left on the shelf that I haven't even got off the shelf to show you. However, I do also have some CD bootlegs, as you saw in the Beatles at the Beeb. But here's things like Artifacts. This is Artifacts 2, which predates Anthology, and again contains much more material than Anthology did. Here's a George Harrison bootleg called 12 Arnold Grove. This contains things like Shanghai Surprise and the missing tracks off of Somewhere in England, some TV show audio and things like that. And you can't get these ones on record, so CD is the way forward for that. I particularly enjoy listening to Beatles in surround sound. Obviously, with the new releases, we're getting 5.1 mixes, Atmos mixes, etc. Problem with Atmos is I don't have an Atmos system. I can't play it. I don't subscribe to Apple Music, so I can't stream it to play through any sort of surround sound system. What I need are physical discs. So fortunately, a lot of the earlier deluxe box sets of anniversary editions contained a Blu-ray or even a DVD, but things like Sgt. Pepper's deluxe edition had a Blu-ray in it, and you could hear Beatles in surround sound, and it just sounds absolutely incredible. In fact, the other day we had some friends over, some Beatle buddies of mine, and we just had a surround sound Sunday. And we just dug out all the surround sound discs that we could and sort of dipped in and out and played lots of different ones. Unfortunately, now they're all going to streaming and there aren't physical releases. I can't play them. So I'm now relying on bootleg copies of the Atmos discs. So my next purchase will probably be the Revolver Atmos mixes on a disc. I have seen them for sale, so I will be purchasing one purely just so I can hear the Beatles in surround sound. Coming on to a couple of my favourite bootlegs. So for McCartney wise, we've got this one here, which is a triple album set, and they're coloured vinyls. There's a red, white, and blue, funnily enough, and it's the Los Angeles gig from 1989, from like the first tour when he got back into touring. I've had this one quite a while, but this is one of my favourite live gigs, recordings, and probably my all-time favourite bootleg, and probably the one I do play the most, is this one here, which is the original Somewhere in England album with the original mixes, and this is a counterfeit record. This is one that George was going to put out. Warner Brothers said, no, we don't like it, you need to change it, you need to take 4 songs off, put new 4 songs on, and change the cover. This here is a copy of the original album, and I have to say, I really enjoy playing this. For me, I actually quite like this. Do I prefer it more than the original one, or the release one, I should say? This is the original one. I enjoy them on par. They're side by side. They're companion pieces, really. I can't really say I prefer one over the other. They're different. I do enjoy playing this, but I also enjoy playing the official released version of Summer in England. In conclusion to the question, are they still relevant, bootlegs? I would say yes, they are. People still like to have tangible things, but also people do enjoy streaming. I enjoy streaming myself, so if I'm not anywhere near my record collection, I can still enjoy the bootlegs if I want to hear them. I personally enjoy actually having something tangible to hold, something tangible to play on my record player. So I can actually see both sides of the coin, and I haven't got a problem with either, to be honest. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Are you happy with the streaming, or do you crave for the physical item, be it an LP or a CD or a cassette? Because you've got to remember, there are many bootlegs out there on cassettes. Now, bootlegs, nothing new. Beatles albums were counterfeited in the 60s when people couldn't get them in Russia and in the Far East. there's lots of counterfeit records of the Beatles then. So as I say, in conclusion, I think there's a place for both streaming and the physical product. I enjoy both. Probably enjoy the records more than streaming, but that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do read every single one. I do respond to the ones that I feel need a response. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.